Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Tomlinson, Senior Director of Education at the United Way of Greater Lehigh Valley and co-founder of Resilient Lehigh Valley. Joining us for our Facebook Live, Help for Families Affected by Drug or Alcohol, guest speaker Stan Lewandowski will share tips on recognizing signs of addiction and how to begin the conversation surrounding recovery. Stan is a certified family recovery specialist with Treatment Trends, Inc., and uses his own experience in long-term recovery to help others fulfill their ambitions and reach goals past addiction. He has worked in the social services field for the last 4 years and enjoys using his personal experience as an inspiration to help others, hoping to obtain freedom through recovery. Let's jump in. Stan, what are substance use disorders and what role do they play in the treatment continuum and long-term recovery process?
Well, thank you for having me. I first want to say it's great to be here. I love the opportunity to spread information to the people and try to bring a better understanding to what substance use disorder is. So the AMA declared addiction as an illness in 1956. They then revised and updated and made it a disease in 1987. So substance use disorder is a disease that affects a person's brain, their behavior, and leads to an inability to control the use of substances. The model that we are going to talk about today would be the disease model. And it says that the SUD is a chronic progressive brain disease where the user loses both physical and psychological control over the drug. Now, that is the clinical term. I'm not a clinician, so I'll just give you my experience. What happens is that the reward pathways in our brain kind of overpower the decision-making part of the brain, and it causes a person suffering with SUD the lack of a control, the lack of the ability to make sound decisions while they're under the influence of these substances. It's not a moral deficiency, and I like to make that. That's pretty much the reason for this question, is to show that while we and I haven't mentioned that I am in long-term recovery. We make poor decisions under the influence of drugs, but we're not bad people. This disease is chronic, but it's treatable. I guess we can talk a little bit about how treatment, the continuum of treatment. So individuals who are addicted to drugs come from all walks of life. Many also suffer from social, psychiatric, or medical issues that make their addictions more difficult to treat. The severity of addictions varies widely. It's essential to match treatment with addiction severity and client needs. And it's best to intervene as early as possible with the least restrictive form of appropriate treatment. So that's kind of an overview. I could spend hours talking about the concept of disease as an addiction, but that's pretty much what I have today.
That's really helpful framing for this conversation. Thanks, Stan. So how does one recognize signs and symptoms of addiction in their child or spouse or family member?
So there's many signs. I'm going to go over a few of the behaviors. You want to watch for like secretiveness, dishonesty, stealing. Those are some of the behaviors that go along with active addiction. There's some other things you could watch for: financial unpredictability. Maybe your loved one has way more money than they should, or on the other hand, they have way less money than they should. That's something that can also be a sign of interaction with addiction. Changes in social groups is a huge one. New and unusual friends, odd phone conversations that you may overhear. repeated unexplained outings. You know, you might start to see your loved one wanting to go out and not really wanting to tell them where they're going. Maybe they're with a sense of urgency, like they have to go out and they need to go out now, but they don't want to tell you where they're going. Then there's also, of course, drug paraphernalia, such as unusual looking pipes, cigarette papers, small scales for weighing, and that the list of that goes on and on. And then you have this, you know, if you may happen to find some drugs stashed somewhere, it's often in a small plastic bag, piece folded up in a piece of paper or in foil packs. There are places you can go to. They have what's called mock bedrooms, and they take you in and show you all the many high, and there's a ton of them. You would actually, I was amazed the first time I hit a mock bedroom at how many places we think of to hide our drugs. So yeah, that's some of the signs and symptoms. There's a ton more, but that's kind of the high point, the highlight of what we want to look for.
That's really, really helpful. And so if we think of kind of substitutes with drugs and alcohol, I know rates of alcohol consumption has skyrocketed with COVID. Would many of these signs and symptoms be the same for alcohol abuse, or would there be some different ones if we thought maybe a loved one had a problem with alcohol?
Well, as far as the effects that the drug has on our behaviors could vary. So alcohol, you might find slur of speech, you might find stumbling, you definitely would look for an odor, an alcohol odor. For something like marijuana, it would be, you know, the red eyes. Eating a lot is a big sign of marijuana use. Sleeping a lot. The heroin is completely, there's different signs for heroin. You might see them wanting to nod out and kind of look like they want to fall asleep. Then there's the signs of withdrawal when it comes to opiates. They'd be sick, have some very severe flu-like symptoms, nausea, vomiting, headache, body aches. So yeah, but with each substance comes different signs that you want to look at, different things that happen in the body. But they all the general behavior is usually the same as how they're starting to live long term with any of the drugs. And you know, we definitely classify alcohol as a drug because it is one. Sometimes there's a tendency to separate illicit drugs from the legal alcohol, but they are all drugs and they all do pretty much the same damage in our lives as we move forward.
Yeah,
Our use.
that's really helpful and a good differentiation. You know, these are all drugs we're talking about in one form or fashion. Alcohol might be a little harder because it's so socially acceptable among adults to then for family members and loved ones to really notice, okay, it's now, you know, steering into maybe a problem, but good to know a lot of these signs and symptoms really cross over many different types of drugs. So that's really helpful information. So let's say you are seeing some of these signs and symptoms in a loved one. How do you then begin the conversation around recovery with the individual struggling with an addiction?
So yeah, that can be a touchy area, of course. It can be difficult. I would first suggest that you try not to judge. If you want to learn as much as you can about the disease of addiction, about substance use disorder, to better be able to understand without judging. You want to show concern, of course. You want to understand that there is only so much you can do. It's up to the person suffering from substance use disorder whether they feel like they need help or whether they even feel like they have a problem. But there's ways to gently coax them in that direction. You want to get a conversation started, a calm conversation. Don't worry about it being perfect, because as a loved one, there's all kinds of feelings that go with finding out that your loved one may have this problem. There's fear, there's anger, there's anxiety, there's guilt. But you want to try to put all that aside, express your concern, be honest, put it on yourself, talk about how this problem may be affecting me, as the loved one. Try to absolutely show concern for their well-being, be supportive, be very specific about what you're seeing. If you're seeing these signs that we discussed earlier, you want to bring them up. Why are you broke all the time? Or why do you suddenly have all this money and you're not working? Why is things starting to missing from the house? You want to definitely address the behaviors, but you also want to be encouraging. You want to tell them, you want to talk about how this is a disease. There is a way out. There are people that have gone through this and come out the other side. And again, be prepared, educate yourself as much as you can about what they're going through. I found, and I'll use a little bit of my experience I've been through, in my 40 years of active addiction, I've been through multiple treatments. Multiple times I tried to get clean, and my loved ones, they were always very supportive, but they didn't understand. I think the last time I went into treatment, of course, I was really prepared for help, but they also, they used to send me to rehab and say, okay, he's going into treatment. He's going to be fine. He'll be great when he gets out. That wasn't always the case for me. And I think at the end, I went into treatment, and then they wanted to get involved. They wanted to know exactly what I was going through while I was in treatment. And they wanted to know what was going to happen when I got home, what they needed to know to best support my recovery moving forward. And then they also wanted to seek out people that have been through this before so that they can find support for them. Because my addiction, our addictions it causes consequences, not only for me, but for everyone close to me. So in a sense, the family needs to be treated, not just the person suffering from the disorder. And I think that's the best approach for long-term recovery.
That's really, really helpful to think of, the addiction of the individual. The individual needs support, but it also has ripple out effects on the family, and how the family is supporting or communicating or trying to support also affects the individual. So it really is the whole family unit that really needs to feel supported and have the right tools to be able to support each other in the recovery process. That's really, really helpful.
And I think a lot of it, this disease is a little bit more unlike any other disease. If you have cancer, if you have diabetes, if you have any life-threatening disease or illness, the family wants to get involved. They want to learn as much as they can about it. They want to be a part of the solution. Unfortunately, there's still a stigma out there with mental health and substance use disorder. It's not helping the cause. And I can tell you, in my experience, I believe that everyone has been somewhat affected by substance, whether it's a family member, a friend, everyone has been affected by this disease. So I think we need to figure out a way to squash that stigma and just, become part of the solution.
Yeah, I think that's really, really helpful, not only destigmatizing substance abuse, but mental health in general.
Right.
And if not now, during the mental health crisis and likely substance abuse crisis that we've all collectively been experiencing during this pandemic, then when, right?
And a large part of the population with people with substance use disorder, mental health issues are hand in hand. They go hand in hand. So, yeah.
Yeah, this is really, really helpful, Stan. So we talked about what substance use disorders are. We talked about how to recognize the signs and symptoms, how to begin that conversation, also how to be thinking, right, of supporting the whole family through the recovery process, and supporting the whole family also supports the individual. So, right, finally, if someone needs assistance and has questions around substance abuse treatment recovery, where can they go?
Okay, so there's a number of places that you can go. There are Nar-Anon meetings, which are Nar-Anon and Al-Anon. They are associated with the Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous program. That's a good place to go to find support, find people that have been through this, and to find out how they got through things. You know, the same way a person with substance use disorder goes to these meetings to find other people that have gone through this, to find the help they need. There's an array of groups. I actually run a group. I created a group called Forging Families. Forging Families is a program that is of Treatment Trends, the company I work for, and we run a program that has weekly groups, educational. They're educational groups. We talk about what addiction is. We get into, more in depth on what addiction is. We talk about this self-care for the family member. It focuses on the family member to better enable them to support and help their loved one. We offer different services. If you there's a 1-800 hotline. I did not have that number ready. I think we can get it and put it up here, but there's actually a multiple. If you Google families with loved ones suffering substance use disorder, you'll get a list of different contacts you can reach out to. I don't know. I can put my information in the chat if that works. I don't know how that works on Facebook
I think
Live.
we'll be recording this too. We
Oh.
can share all that. We'll share the hotline number,
Okay.
Treatment Trends phone numbers. We can share your contact information for Forging Families as well, right, in with the email or the Zoom recording of this link.
Okay.
And we'll send that out to everybody.
Okay. So yeah, I think it's very important that you do reach out when you're coming across this issue with a loved one. You want to stay as involved in the process as you can.
Yeah, this is really, really helpful. And I think really, really timely for this year with all the added stress and how that stress has impacted so many individuals and so many families. So I think this is a very timely topic. I mean, always timely. I think even more so right now, given the year that we've had. So I'm going to thank you, Stan, for your time, your expertise, sharing your personal story as well and your own experience. And I took like 2-3 pages of notes, right? So
good.
So just like as kind of a wrap up, really thinking of substance use, it's not a choice. It's not a moral deficiency. It really is disease that affects both brain and behavior. It's really thinking of it that way and understanding that way and responding to it that way is really helpful for the individual and the loved ones. Signs and symptoms, some of them change depending on the type of drug, but really secretive behavior, dishonesty, stealing, financial unpredictability, changes in social groups, repeated unexplained outings, often with a sense of urgency, some drug paraphernalia or even finding drugs and noting people are crafty with hiding drugs. And so be creative. If you suspect something, be creative in thinking through what might be hiding spaces. Obviously slur of speech and red eyes with alcohol or marijuana, but also maybe some changes in sleep patterns as well, or sudden changes in sleep patterns, not sleeping at all or sleeping too much might be other signs. And in terms of beginning that conversation, really focusing on understanding and not judging, really understanding substance use as a disease and responding that way and thinking of it that way. Really having a calm conversation, express your concerns, be honest how the addiction is affecting you and other loved ones, be specific with the signs that you're seeing, and also really encouraging that we can get through this. We're here as a group, as a family to help, and that help is available. And really thinking through prioritizing self-care of the loved ones and family members as well is really important. And lots of places to go for help, right? Help is available. And there's lots of different forms and types of help depending on what your issues are. There's Naranon, there's Al-Anon, there's a 1-800 number that we'll share with folks. And love the idea of forging families with treatment trends, really identifying, right? Substance use affects the whole family, and we need to resource and support the whole family. And by also, I think by supporting the whole family, we're really also supporting the individual, because not only are we helping with the emotional toll and the self-care needs of the family, but we're also equipping the family to be better support for the individual, which will also help that individual, that loved one, in their recovery process. So I think it's just so, I keep hearing from you, like, the family, the loved one, the group, the supports, and self-care are just really, really so important. Because it really is, there's a collective impact with substance abuse, and it really does ripple out in lots of folks. And if we really want to help our loved one, right, we need to help in a way that is helpful, and really getting those tools, those tips, that language, and really having our own self-care needs met as well is really, really important. So I know I took lots of notes. So I know I've learned a lot from this time, Stan, and I'm just so thankful and so appreciative. So thank you, Stan. And to our viewers, I hope you learned as much as I did. And we hope you will join us next week for another Resilient Lehigh Valley Facebook Live event. Thanks so much and take care.